So thank you very much for listening to this video. This was a video as an output of a biodiverse EU-funded project back in 2015. So obviously now the global target on biodiversity changed from 10% to 30%. And also there's been an increasing interest on the role that MPAs may provide in protecting biodiversity and providing ecosystem services. So today we're going to share with you some perspective on how MPAs can play a role in the global ecosystem and also in the equity that we try to establish in the global ocean. As you know, the ocean plays an extremely important role for life on Earth and for human well-being. They carry out about 50% of the primary production on the planet and supply 20% of the intake of animal protein to more than 3 million people. And also they support the greatest biodiversity on the planet. As I mentioned earlier, there's a momentum to protect the global ocean and the use of MPAs as a conservation tool. And this is really becoming much greater than previously. And there's a lot of work going on at present at the global level, also the regional level. By realizing that the potential to achieve this will require a common shared language to understand, celebrate, and track the achievements and provide clarity about our collective science-based goals. So there's been put in place an MPA guide that you can check online, Protect the Planet. And in this guide, you can also look how the different MPAs are currently established and what kind of roles they have in a different country. And I just put the link here for Sweden as an example. Also, there's the UNEP WCMC 2021 protected area profile for Sweden, and also this can be looked into this link below. So the presentation today, as I mentioned, will give you some perspective on the importance to consider the link between ecosystem services and MPAs. And also, we will touch upon the value system that MPAs networks provides in terms of societal benefits and equality. And the work in progress obviously is linked to a few of the UN SDGs. I just put here an example of a few of them: SDG 1, no poverty; 0 hunger; SDG 2, SDG 3, good health and well-being; climate action; and life below water. Just to give you some background about the importance of linking MPAs with ecosystem services, this is an adapted diagram from the paper by Cullen et al. 2019, and basically you show a kind of a linear process where ecosystem services and their assessment are a key part as well of the socio-economic system. But in this particular diagram, the emphasis is on the ecosystem component, structure, marine biota, habitat, nutrients, lights, dissolved carbon, etc. And the way that this ecosystem component have the capacity to supply services. And then you can see that there is a production boundary line that then goes to the socio-economic system, so the benefits that we actually gain from the different services that the ecosystem provides. And this work was also part of a recent ICES workshop on assessing the capacity to supply ecosystem services. And the aim of this workshop, that you can obviously read the reports online, was actually to provide some background and some, let's say, roadmap on how we can use the concept of ecosystem services and embedded in the ICES advice on ecosystem overviews. As we go into more details on the link between the ecological component, ecological system, the social system in terms of ecosystem services. So in this diagram, we can see that climate scenario is like seen as an exogenous drivers, and then you have two parts of this diagram, one that includes the natural capital, the non-living matter, and on the other side you have the human capitals, and the human activity here are represented in terms of pressure and drivers, and the non-living matter is explicitly considered here as part of the ecosystem and the ecosystem component, and might be abiotic and abiotic, with the capacity to supply respectively biotic and abiotic ecosystem services. Humans are considered part of the ecosystem, though their activity and the pressure this cause, not as part of the ecosystem components. In addition, they are actors in the socio-economic system when they value how ecosystem services contribute to their well-being, and based on these general drivers or management intervention, and in general allocate human capital into the ecosystem. Also, this includes the extent to which human tradition and indigenous knowledge determine cultural ecosystem services. As we move more into details of this background information, ecosystem services might be seen as representing the flow of ecosystem capital that is realized because of the human active or passive demand. And there's the final output from ecosystems that are directly consumed, used, or enjoyed by people. Also, ecosystem services are the benefit people obtain from ecosystem, and this includes provisioning services such as food, water, timber, and fiber, regulating services that affect climate, flood, diseases, waste, and water quality, cultural services. They provide recreational, aesthetic, and spiritual benefits, and supporting services such as soil formation, photosynthesis, nutrient cycle, and this is coming from the Millennium Assessment 2005. So the scope of this presentation is basically twofold. First, we will try to show you the importance that MPA play an increasingly important role in biodiversity and conservation, and they can be seen as an operational tool towards an ecosystem-based management for marine ecosystem. And the point is that despite recent effort in evaluating the effectiveness of MPA, there's still a need to reevaluate the MPA, in this case, with respect to ecosystem services and biodiversity. The objective is to provide a set of high-level criteria for assessing the links between MPA's networks and ecosystem services / biodiversity using a survey-based approach, and also to evaluate the results for providing protocols, guidelines to informing management of conservation and sustainability action as part of a broader sustainability perspective in relation to EBM and marine spatial planning in Sweden and globally. In this work, we basically have 3 case studies, one in Sweden, the Coastal Marine Park, and 2 in Spain, the marine reserves of fishing interest of the Minarezo area in Spain, and the SIS in the Maritime Natural Park of the Atlantic Islands in Galicia. And Sebastian will give you more details later on. Basically, as to give you an example, how the MPA can be linked to the marine ecosystem services and the mechanism underlie the services that they provide. I just give you here some example, and you can see, for example, the category of provisioning services, food. The mechanism can be the increased production or stabilization of target species biomass, and the effects that MPAs put in place when they are strictly protected. They They have an effect on the large size of target species, so they actually protect larger body size species. They also provide recovery of top predator, and also they enhance the stability and food web complexity. In the regulating services, you can see, for example, carbon sequestration and climate regulation. The mechanism is the protection of plants and calcifying organisms, like coral reefs, for example, and the fact that the species that have high carbon sequestration capacity are protected. Cultural services, you can see, for example, cultural heritage, so the maintenance of community-based natural resource management practice, and the effect that they have is on charismatic and cultural significant species for the specific area. What we are as a team on doing this kind of work on try to link MPAs to ecosystem services. We are a transdisciplinary team, including natural, social science, economics, and humanities. We are coordinated by a core team at CIME, University of Göteborg. We also have a reference group of relevant stakeholders, both in Spain and in Sweden. And we also have an international collaboration within ICES for two working groups, one working group on resilience and marine ecosystem services, and one newly established working group on marine protected areas and other spatial conservation measures. In this first part of the work, we basically establish an approach based on the Delphi method, and I'm not going into very much details here about this Delphi methodology, but basically we have established 6 key elements under which we have a different type of criteria to assess in a survey style, expert and stakeholder, the link between ecosystem components and ecosystem services. So basically, the key element 1 is the availability of underlying data to identify measurable ecosystem services in each MPA, links between ecosystem services and ecosystem components, conceptual links between ES and the effectiveness of MPAs, management relevance, communication and public awareness, and social benefit and distribution. We basically use, sorry that the slide is a bit too small, but we basically use the CISES catalog of ecosystem services, you can see here, provisioning services, regulating and cultural services. And we use all these 6 key elements with different criteria, and we run a survey style workshop in the 3 case studies. And the details of the first part of the work were published in a recent paper in Frontiers, where we outline this transdisciplinary Delphi forecasting methodology framework. And now we are in the process to actually analyze the outcome from this survey, which will be the work for this year. And now I would like to give the words to Sebastian, that will give you more insight on the value system that MPA's network provides in terms of societal benefit and equality. Please, Sebastian, thanks.
Thank you very much, Andrea, and thanks for the kind invitation. Very happy to and glad to join this conversation and dialogue. Well, basically, Andrea asked me to try to share with you some insights and preliminary results that we have been able to conduct here in Spain in one of the most important marine protect area here in Galicia. Well, this slide shows very briefly the type of the activities and type of species that this marine protect area, Osminiarsos, has within the area. We have not only small-scale fishers, but also recreational ones, as well as shellfish and women. As you probably know, here in Galicia, we have the highest number of shellfish and women, that around 4,000 approximately women working, as you can see, in the left part, in the middle of the plot, you see the photo in which women daily collect manually the species, mainly clams, that right now are strongly affected by climate change, and they are, putting at risk the activity that this woman has been developing since the Middle Age until now. This is a multi-species fisheries, mainly crustaceans, crabs, octopus, which and barnacles, that they are very valuable in not only here in Spain, but also internationally, because, most of these species are consumed domestically, but also at international level. Next slide, please. Well, I would like to share with you, before going to some preliminary results that, as Andrea already shared with us, some background information about this marine reserve of fisher interest, which is called Os Miñarsos, right? This started with the abrupt shock and the huge impact of the Prestige oil spill in 2002. And because of that, more than 20 years ago, artisanal fishers from the area created what we know as a marine reserve of fisher interest, which is an interesting category, because fishing is permitted and developed by the small-scale fisheries and co-created by and promoted by them, especially, right? So this is not a traditional marine protected area in which fishing activities are prohibited in general. So under the Galician law, marine reserves are tools for the management of fishing resources and conservation of marine ecosystem. And in the process of creation of this MPA, fishers have taken a very active participation, not only in the design, but also to define the most suitable management plan for sustainable fishing within reserve, which led in the beginning to a greater acceptability and compliance of the norms. Well, since 2002, we also we published some papers on trying to better understand and learn about the process to lead into a huge positive transformative change happening because after the abrupt change of the Prestige oil and because of the creation and implementation of the marine protected area. In terms of these results, I will be sharing some insights on quantitative results, but also social change and equity challenge that I think are also very important in terms of context-specific characteristics of the areas, right? Well, as you can see on the right of this figure, you can see in terms of quantitative evidence using official data from small-scale fishers and shellfisher women in the site, we can see that since the creation of the marine protected area, both the value as well as the quantity of species of the landings has been declining until more or less 2022, 23, and then started to increasing, quite a lot, especially the value of most of the species. This is the average value for all of these species that has been harvested and landed from the marine protected area, which is mainly composed by 90 small-scale fishing vessels coming from different coastal communities to the area. This is very briefly speaking in terms of the quantitative results. In terms of the number of fishing vessels, has been stabilized since the creation of the marine protected area, and the fishing effort also has been controlled and well managed until today. So this is some of the key results. But I would also like to share with you some let's say social change or qualitative results. More than 15 years after the full implementation in 2007, we observed that the transformative change took place since the creation of the marine protected area, not only because of the repercussion of the fishing practice, moving from, let's say, unsustainable practice or illegal and unreported fishing activities toward more sustainable practice, but also on the belief and social values on the main fishers, scientists, and representatives of the regional administrations, because since the creation of this marine protected area, a new management body with the presence of all of these actors are annually discussing and allocating the volume of catch that is allowed to harvest from the activity and from the area. There was also a notable reduction of conflicts and mistrust between the administration and the fisheries sector, favoring the most decisions concerning fishing activities are mainly taken by consensus, always. Another, let's say, sign of progress that the marine protected area was able to provide was the collective behavior of local fisheries working within the MPA, who after the decision of the regional administration to unfortunately discontinue the financial support for the surveillance of the to control and to monitor the activity since 2010. The fishers continue with the inertia of social norms to comply with the fisheries law until now. And also starting from a fragmented and divided fishery sector, the main challenge was to construct a collective and a common vision of a sustainable future of the MPA and the economic development of the associated coastal community who depend and rely on the fishing activity within them. And as a result of this, let's say, main high-level positive consequence that we are sharing today, this case, this marine protected area in Galicia also inspired other coastal communities, not only here in Galicia, but also, for example, in Catalonia or in Andalusia, in South Spain, but also has been inspiring the new fisheries law, as well as the voluntary guidelines for securing sustainable small-scale fisheries in the context of food security and poverty eradication developed by the FAO. And all of these initiatives collectively also inspired, has been also positive to develop new visions and new ways on how fishers, scientists, and the regional administration will be able to collectively develop positive transformative change over time through the implementation of the MPAs with the different degree of success at the different phases of the implementation. And more recently, for example, this MPA has served as an inspiration for the creation of a new network of small-scale fisheries in Latin America and the Caribbean, Portugal, and Spain, involving more than 20 million of fishers in the regions. Next slide, please. And in terms of the results, based on the framework that Andrea shared previously, I would like to share some of the preliminary results that it will be possible to achieve with the data and information that we have collected so far. And here, something important, and Andrea also pointed out in the presentation, is that MPA have the potential to improve both human well-being, but also biodiversity conservation by providing positive ecological and social outcome, but also trying to also identify potential conflicts or trade-off that are generated between the different interests of multiple users. And these aspects also include the non-linear interaction between humans and the biological system in which they are embedded. And under this context, we use this framework to focus on this MPA in Spain to illustrate the application of the network analysis to explore interaction between environmental, ecological, social components of a given social ecological system and try to interpret the interaction from a management perspective, right? And we also expanded the ecosystem services cascade approach to also try to generate an holistic integration of different sources of knowledge and also component, as we said, ecological, environmental, social, and an institutional one, and try to provide let's say, a more integrative interpretation and understanding of what is happening in these marine protected areas. And here in this figure, for example, we can see two elements need to be distinguished in this figure, because this comes from a square matrix that we have developed both with the nodes as well as with the each within this marine protect area. We created this matrix based on the framework that Andrea shared in the beginning, based by using, let's say, the direction of the interaction between the different components that has been built for the area, and we use several sources of knowledge. For example, we did a systematic review of scientific, but also Greek literature since the prestigious spill that generate and trigger the creation of the MPA in 2002. And also this has been combined with the developing of a workshop with experts from the different sectors that they are involved in the area, like small-scale fishers, shell fishing, recreational fishers. And this matrix-based method allow us to co-create this framework, integrated scientific experts and traditional knowledge. And the connections between the different components of the network analysis could be also direct, weighted, and signed in two directions, positive or negative. Positive is here showing in green, and negative, let's say, in orange or red. And the connections between the different components of the matrix were assigned on a scale from ranging from -2, which is highly negative, to +2, which is highly positive, and also scoring 0 in case we are not able to find suitable information, or the experts in a consensus discussion agree that there is a neutral interaction, right? And in terms of the results, well, this MPA is characterized by having small-scale fisheries in a central position of the network, fish biodiversity, habitat protection, shell fishing, as well as the scientific community are also present in a central position of the network. And there is also a positive influence of shell fishing gathers and artisanal fisheries on the network, and the creation of the area. This is consistent with the creation of the area, as this was developed by the local ecological knowledge of fishers. However, we also see there are some not so positive interaction, like, for example, some values that we are able to integrate in the results from, especially from recreational fishers, that they are de facto excluded from the area. And this is one of the challenges, of course, that still needs to be continuously developing and further exploring options to try to collectively improve not only the behavior of the different actors, but also the performance in terms of equity, as well as the social change. And from my side, this is what I wanted to share with you. This is, of course, I would like to highlight that this is one of the ways to try to visualize and to show the results of the work that we are doing. We think that this is, an interesting tool to explore, to show the different components in an holistic way. Why? Because usually, at least here in Spain, policymakers are usually, I would say, not forced, but usually think in terms of developing actions and policies to act broadly for the whole area, regardless the activities or trade-off or synergies between the different, not only ecosystem functions, but also social actors. And this type of methods will potentially provide elements and results to policymakers that they will be able to be more, let's say, chirurgic, and try to find solutions for a given actors that is showing, let's say, a red or orange value, and in which is showing a negative results or a high trade-off between several actors, or between ecosystem function and those things. And thanks a lot, and I will be very happy to start conversation or dialogues or questions. Super glad to share thoughts. Thanks a lot.
So thank you, Sebastian. And here I just want to show you 2 remaining slides. So basically the challenges are in terms of linking MPA and ecosystem services, how to put in place this kind of processes and framework in order to basically link this aspect. And also there's another um, obviously possibility that I haven't touched upon, which is the capacity of the actual operational models that we have in terms of ecosystem type of models, where we can use those models to see how the different ecosystem component under different scenarios they can actually supply services in terms, for example, productions. And we've been exploring this in this ICES workshop, and there's also another potential roadmap to follow. Also, I want to share with you that the ICES Working Group on Resilience and Marine Ecosystem Services is not working in isolation, but we also are part of a more global network, including all these institutions and other um, global partnership that are actually working on ecosystem services and biodiversity at the global and regional scale. And with this, I thank you for your attention, and we are here to have some question and discussion. Thanks.